Hello, adventurers. This is Modern Artifice here, and today I am joined by the Neopets team. We have TNT Aesop, who's the narrative lead. We're going to talk about and dive into the Void Within today. So I know a lot of people are excited about this event and everything that's been going on with it, and they've been waiting for it to kick off for a long while, or at least start up again. So, probably one of the biggest things just from the get-go, to those Neopians who are returning after a long hiatus or just joining for the first time or need a refresher, can you tell us a little bit about The Void Within?
Yeah, certainly. So the Void Within is the first plot we've seen in a long time in Neopets. It's been quite a few years since we've had a plot before this. And essentially, I can give us a little bit of a what's happened so far. So we've had two episodes of the plot come out so far. We've divided up into three different episodes. We're about to be starting the final episode, episode three, pretty soon. It's titled Pentimento of the Painter. We've had part one and part two already come out. The first part was really all about quite a few different characters starting to come together. We had a fan favorite character, Baelia the Grey Fairy, who a lot of people have been wondering what's going on there. When is her story going to be continued? So we finally got a little bit of motion there where Bailey is being drawn into the story because this mysterious gray is spreading across Neopian. We're not exactly sure what's happening at first. Some people think it's a curse, something like that. But as really the only gray fairy around, Bailey is one of the ones that's called in to try to help figure out what's happening. Another fairy that gets involved is Luxinia. She's the light fairy that we actually saw in Fairy's Hope, one of our side projects as well. And she has a unique ability called tactile empathy, which allows her to kind of using light waves, look through people's emotions on the spectrum and see where exactly items or places or things are tied to them and kind of do a sort of a telemetry, I believe is the phrase for it. And, most abilities, how it's described. But yeah, essentially she's able to use her light frequency powers to go and take a look at what transpired before. So it's a very helpful investigative power that has been used in here as well. So we've got Baelia, Luxinia coming together, Tabby's Baelia's best friend, who's kind of tags along as her ride or die moral support. And then we also have a few new characters that pop in here. One of them is Nyx, who's right next to me over here, actually. Nyx is this Aisha character who years ago was a delivery driver for Virtue Pet Station. Kind of took a really cool opportunity there to get out of Neopet Central and do something that she loved exploring. And unfortunately, during one of her routine travels, was lost into this strange place called the Void. She was accompanied by her little Faerie companion who's down here. I kind of want to move him up so you can see him, but it's all good. We all know what Junie looks like. He's this adorable little companion who's a very special pet, very unique in the fact that he's brilliant. Most pets don't have this type of ability to communicate and especially to build and develop as much as Junie has. But Junie is a very smart little mechanically minded pet. So he actually helped Nyx when they both got lost in the void, and in a very self-sacrificing way took the little pieces that were left of the ship and tried to put together this void dampener device that stopped this void essence. You can see a little bit over here spreading across Nyx. So yeah, it was a kind of all coming together in that first episode. We saw Nyx and Junie returning to Neopia. We saw Baelia being pulled, requested from Fiora to be pulled into this grand adventure that was happening, and then Luxinia was called in as well to try to help confirm things. So this kind of started putting together our heroes party right there. And then at the very start, or sorry, I guess the very end of that first episode, they encountered the Gray Painter and Vera, which were some of our main antagonists we're seeing. The Gray Painter is an entirely new one. We haven't seen him before. And we learned that he has a connection to Nyx, actually ending up being her younger brother, who she had to leave behind when she got lost in the void and went on this adventure to become a delivery driver for Virtue Pet Station. So, yeah, there's a lot going on here. Vera is an antagonist who's a fan favorite we brought back as well. Another character like Baelia that a lot of people have been wanting to see more of for a long time. So that was really our goal here, was to bring in some new, fresh characters, breathe some new life into a world that has needed some momentum for a long time, while also bringing back some of those fan favorite characters that were never really fully utilized in the past. So that was a lot of the setup of the first episode. The second episode, we went into more of trying to track down the Gray Painter to appeal to him. Nyx is really trying to save what's left of her brother there, but it's not going to be easy. There's clearly someone who has been meddling and sort of manipulating the situation. So there's more that we're going to learn about that in the next episode. But the second episode was mostly trying to chase him down. And then we actually went through this mysterious passage on the way to Altador to try to catch him in Altador before he attacked there. And Nyx learned a little bit more during that passage. There was a mysterious musical element that helps her find her way through some of the puzzles. And then there was also a familiar creature on the other side and a statue that she had seen before while she was in the void. There was a statue of this creature seemingly suggesting that it had been to Neopia one time before, too. So some pieces are starting to come together in that second episode. And then towards the end of it, we had a very climatic moment where Altador is under attack. King Altador is springing into action. Him and the defenders are doing everything they can to try to protect the area. And Nyx and our heroes are just joining in just in time to see all the chaos and try to step up and do something about it. And just at the very end, Baelia and Luxinia managed to reach the Gray Painter, and Luxinia is going to try to use her tactile empathy ability to kind of go into his memories and appeal to him there. So that's sort of where we left off. A lot of happening. I know there's a lot to fill up in there, so I was just venting for a while at you guys with all this information.
Because for a long while, since 2004, there has been mentions of the gray, most notably with the gray paintbrush, which had very distinct artwork, even insofar as the pet's colors. So, because people have often speculated in a symbolic or an emotional way, have that attachment to the gray and what it can mean. How are you trying to expand on that to make it something mythic without making players lose what they felt it might have meant already?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So we've really been trying to weave in some more serious topics into this plot, but at the same time, it's all Neopets, and it needs to take place in this very fun, bright, colorful world. So while Neopets in the past has delved into some very heavy topics, they've done it in a very nuanced way, and that's what we're trying to do with this plot as well. So you definitely caught on with the gray paintbrush. It's been revealed through the upper deck cards that it's actually called the acrimonious paintbrush. We'll learn a little bit more about exactly what that is and who created it in the next episode. So yeah, there's quite a bit to still be unraveled there, but you're absolutely right. We're really trying our best to. It's funny you mentioned mythic too. I don't want to give away too much, but we did try to set up this kind of situation where the lines are blurring between what's a hero, what makes someone like mythic in this category, what what means to be a hero for you versus what it means to be a hero for other people, for yourself. There's a lot of questioning there in terms of identity. That's a huge theme that we play with a lot here. What it means to be turned gray versus to be gray. How much of it is you? How much of you are what people see you as? How you're perceived? So yeah, we're trying our best to approach this from a very nuanced point without delving too harshly into things. We really want to be smart about this and
Hmm.
touch upon these topics while also keeping it a fun and very accessible world for everyone.
Well, you touched on another point that I wanted to bring up later on, but it's the perfect time for it. In dealing with like what it means to be gray versus becoming gray, because I don't think a lot of people are aware that Baelia used to be a light fairy. Um, and so, what's like one of the most important things in the Void Within that you want to preserve about Baelia and bring her story to a larger scale without reducing it to just sadness and melancholy?
Yeah, fantastic question there. So the one theme that we've been following a lot is that even as the light fairy, Baelia never felt fully themselves. Like there was always a part of them that felt on the outside. They're watching all these other light fairies. We got into a little bit of that in the second episode, but there'll definitely be more of that in the third episode. Whereas even when they were a fully fleshed out light fairy and they had their magic and everything, something just didn't feel right still. So there was something that was missing. And I think when Baelia was turned gray, that was only harder. That well suddenly became deeper. It was all more obvious the difference between them and all the other fairies. So that's something that Baelia has been struggling with for a long time now, for in-game decades, really. And their friend Tabby's been trying to help them sort through it. But no matter how many times Tabby tries to give them a new name, nothing really seems to make that change and feel right for them. So a lot of this story is the fact that Baelia has been sort of struggling with what it means to accept your own identity and choose your own identity and take that step forward. And they've been really trying to find it out on their own with the help of Tabby. But as they're going through the story, they're seeing people like Nyx who are very driven and are coming from a very different place and fighting for someone they love, like Ozzy. That was the great painter's name. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of that here where Baelia is struggling to understand what they really need and what will complete them essentially, and that is a lot of like what they're circling around in this plot. And a large part of that is actually Luxinia too. We saw in the cave during the second episode there was a very tender moment between Luxinia and Baelia, where the two of them were trying to help each other out. It's Luxinia's been there supporting Baelia for a while now, but Baelia was the one who was helping Luxinia because Luxinia has this fear of the dark, and when she was lost in the cave she just panicked and had that like, I need to get out of here, this is terror, this is wrong, and I had that very knee-jerk reaction that Bailey was able to help guide her through. And I think being on the other side of it, there, being there to try to help support other people, we're already seeing a slightly different side of Bailey as the story goes. That character development is happening slowly, but there's quite a bit of hints of what's going to come that we've already seen in the first few episodes.
Excellent. So with Nyx is a very big part of like this storyline as it keeps developing. And so what makes them like a lens that you can do things that with them that another protagonist wouldn't allow you to do in expanding on?
Fantastic question. Yeah. So the story of The Void Within is really two character arcs that we're focusing on. And one of them is Nyx, one of them is Baelia. Nyx has a very different character arc that they're going through. I, of course, don't want to give too much away.
Yeah.
But I really love the question and the way you framed it there, because the interesting thing about Nyx is Nyx helps us appeal to a side that we've never really seen in the plots before, and that's the owner. So Nyx has both that spirit of the person who's exploring Neopia as an owner. You're coming to this world and you're trying to look all over, and that's really what Nyx is all about. She's an explorer. She's wanted to do this for so long, but she's been stuck in Neopia Central. So when she took that chance to see more of the world that was to offer there, go to Virtue Pet Station, see what space is like, she jumped at that chance. But the other side of this is Junie. Nyx is sort of paired with Junie, this pet. So we have that sort of owner pet relationship that you experience as a player, but we've never really seen in the plots before. So we were trying to play a little bit with that. And we try to move away more from like owner and pet. I'm using that terminology, but it's
Mhm.
really more so like a friendship you're forming with them, because that's the way a lot of us see our relationship with the pets on the site. Like these are virtual friends that you're checking up on and taking care of and bonding with and having that relationship with. And I think that's the relationship we were really trying to form between Junie and Nyx. That way, like you said, we had this very different lens that we could take upon. This is someone who, because of them being lost in the void a long time ago too, is also returning to Neopia now after so much has changed, much like a lot of our fans are, because they maybe grew up with it, haven't played it in 10 years, and now we're seeing this resurgence of Neopets and want to take a chance too. So when they're returning, they're kind of returning like Nyx is after all these years, with these fresh eyes on how Neopia has changed, while many of us have changed ourselves. Nyx went through a harrowing experience in the void and became back a changed person. I'm sure a lot of us went through harrowing experiences becoming adults and are now changed people returning to the site. So we really are trying to capture the player's identity with Nyx here in terms of the relationship to the pet, the relationship to the site and to the world itself, and returning to something that was very dear to you when you were younger, but now has changed a lot and might seem unfamiliar in some ways.
So, and because this was a part of our childhood, and you are dealing with deeper themes, but still are obviously always new Neopians are welcome to join in, be part of the community. What's the hardest part that you've had with the Void Within on making it a Neopet story within the world rather than just a fantasy story that's just has Neopia as a backdrop?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think the most difficult thing has been balance. I'm sure balance is the word itself, because there's a lot of balancing we're doing here. There's balancing of, what our studio needs to do, what we're being asked to do from leadership, and what the fans are looking for. And then there's even balance within the fans themselves. Some fans are really excited about fairies. Some fans love fairies to death, and that's all they want to see. Other fans tired of fairies. They don't want to see any fairies. They just want to focus on the Neopets. So finding that balance is never easy, and it's something we really strove for with this plot. And that's why you see this main collection of our kind of assortment of heroes is both Neopets and pet pets and fairies. We tried to get a wide swath and make sure we're appealing to all types of people who are interested. And that was actually another thing we think about a lot, not only in terms of the storytelling for the plot, but for the game design of the plot. The plot is a lot of it is focused on story, but a lot of it also circles back to things like prizes and things for that will make collectors happy, like new stamps, things like that. A large portion is the battle dome. We're bringing all tons of new battle dome opponents, trying to do some updates as we do that as well, new weapons as well. And then another portion is puzzles. That was a large thing of plots in the past, was trying to decipher puzzles that were connected intricately with the story. And with our studio right now, we're not nearly as big as Neopets was in the past. We don't have the money of like a Nickelodeon or a Viacom behind us to
Hmm.
create what they were able to in the past. So we really have to be careful and prioritize what we can when we're balancing. We put these really grand plans out there, and then as we go into development, we're like, okay, unfortunately, this now won't be possible. We can't do this anymore. This has to be shifted here, and so many things change and just get cut during the process. Unfortunately, that's the way all game development goes. But we've been really trying to make sure we maintain that balance and ensure that, as you said, this isn't just a fantasy story with the backdrop of Neopets. It feels like Neopian characters, and they're people who have lived in this world. I mean, we try to take really careful details when we build things like dialogue, even where people say expressions that, you know, maybe in our world would say, you could say something like look what the cat dragged in, but in Neopia, it's going to be something along the lines of what look what the Cadoti dragged in. Like, we're really trying to do everything we can to make sure that it feels organic in universe. And a large part of that has been fun with playing with Nyx too, because we've had moments where like Nyx is catching up. So like I think we had one line too where Nyx was like learning about what happened during the events of Faerie's Ruin, and she was like, "Wow, they brought the whole thing to the ground. That's pretty cool, terrifying, but pretty cool too." Yeah.
So on the Void Within, uh, when the storyline is looked back on, and this is more of a, especially as the narrative lead, as this is the a monument that you're building for many people to enjoy. What do you hope that the Void Within's legacy is going to be within Neopets lore?
I would love it to be a catalyst. I think that is my goal at the end of the day. We really designed this plot specifically to set up so much in the future, and that's something that we'll see, particularly towards the end of this one, just how much is being set up. And we're really hoping that this will act as a catalyst for future stories. I have my own favorite plots. It's probably Fairy's Ruin for me. But I know everyone has their own favorite plots. You grew up with these. You're attached to some of these stories, and some of these things when you grew up playing them, it's just there's no way we'll ever be able to recapture that magic. But if we can even bring in just a little bit of that, just capture a bit of what made it so special when you were clicking through these pages as a child and just growing attached to these characters, I'd be very happy with that. And if we could use that as momentum to continue this and tell more stories and continue to develop this world, because I think that's the biggest thing when I talk to a lot of Neopets fans is they have so many questions of what's going on with this, what's happening here. There's so many threads that previous creators of Neopets lore had just begun and never had a chance to finish. And it's no fault of anyone, is that passed through so many different hands of different companies that a lot of different stories and ideas were started and never followed upon. And there's just so many loose threads that we'd really like to continue exploring hanging around Neopia that I know the fans want to see. People like Bailey are just really the start of it. There's so many more unanswered questions that we would really like to explore in future stories. So I think my hope is that when people look back on this plot, they'll see what we were trying to build, the foundation we were trying to start upon here. And I really do hope people will look back on it and really get excited about what we were able to do here and how we were hoping to bring back a little bit of that magic and sparkle and joy in a time that I think really needs it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Are there any older pieces of Neopian lore that once you started building this story, you found became super important? And no spoilers if it is, but you know.
No, great question. Neopian lore is a funny thing too, because it's you would expect it all to be in one place, but unfortunately it's not. It's not just in the stories. You have to look at things like the editorials where someone on the staff said, "Oh no, this is actually canon here," sort of thing. So I'd say there's been a lot of little things as we go through because we've really tried to do our due diligence and make sure that everything we're telling is not a retcon in any way. We're really trying our best to like if things need to change because there's a lot of parts of Neopets lore that if you put them together don't necessarily make sense, but we're trying to make this happen as a more organic, slow rollout of any changes and not huge retcons that feel like we're going back and changing what were integral parts of the lore. So that's been a big part of us, like things like how a gray fairy works. that has been a large part of this, and we've done a lot of research into what was told about the gray fairies before. And if anything, we want to build upon that as opposed to changing the established lore. We just want to fill it out more and really like color in any little pieces that were gaps before.
Absolutely. Turning a two-sentence blurb that meant a lot to a bunch of people into a sprawling narrative.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So a little shift away from the Void Within. Um, there are two mobile games, Fairies Fragments and Tales of Darkardia. I always
The
mispronounce it.
cardio. You were close.
Darkardia.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Um, though they are separate from the Neopets website, are the events such as the storm and the fragmentation and the issues on the island um, still canon within the Neopets world?
That's a great question. And I'm going to take a step back real quick before I answer it. So,
Oh,
there's quite a few Neopets side games we've had in the past. And right now, the way we've been trying to rectify things is most of those side non main games were not considered canon. But these new ones we're bringing, we are trying to actively make sure that they reflect the canon as we go. So we do have both Tears of the Cardian. It was Fairy Fragments, but it's been renamed to Fairy's Hope. Or wait, it was the other way around. Sorry, it might have started as Fairy's Hope and then become Fairy Fragments. I've too many development changes there. I'm getting them mixed up. But both of those are connected to the lore we have right now. Lexini is a perfect example. We drove her, or we took her directly from there, and we wanted to continue her story, not necessarily take any big things. I think the biggest thing I'll say is timelines are where things get a little tricky. We try to just say like, hey, some of these events might just happen in between things going on, so they're not necessarily going to be happening at the same time as what's happening as the plot sort of thing. Like it's sort of suspend a little disbelief, and Luxini is back home when these events are happening versus on this grand adventure on the plot sort of thing. Um, I will say we've been trying to also make sure that there's enough space between them. It's not like you need to make sure you play this game to understand what's happening in Neopets. They should be able to be enjoyed and completely on their own, but we want there to be some threads that if you are playing both, you'll be able to catch those references and have a little smile at the Easter eggs we're throwing in there for you.
absolutely. And I mean, it's as a like longtime Neopets player, I will say this is all of you Neopians, you really need to understand. Neopass is great, and these mobile games are very generous, like to both your inventory and your bank account.
Yes,
Um,
those new points will add up quick.
they absolutely do. Um, so stepping away now from the Void Within and the mini games, just a few of like my personal favorite questions that I love to ask people. What's your favorite Neopet?
It's a tough one for me. I'm a dragon guy, so it's probably a Drake, but it's funny. I like oscillate between Drake, Shoiru, pretty often, occasionally Scorchio, but I feel like I've been on the Drake and Shoiru train lately. Yep.
That's my main. I understand Drake Love. Okay.
Love that.
Um, what daily do you absolutely have to do? Like, will be the first thing you go for?
It's silly because it's not one like that I have to do, but the meteor. I for the life of me, it won't do anything for me, and I've been poking that thing for so long, and I need it to do something. So like that is the one that I'll say because I'm waiting with the day it finally happens. I'm gonna celebrate somehow. I don't know. I'll open a bottle of wine or something. I feel like I'm gonna need to have champagne ready to go because yeah, I've been waiting for that meteor to do something for me.
And I was not paid to ask this question, but um, since you're the narrative lead, you might have the most insight into this. While she long-standingly has been a staple of Neopets, and she doesn't have a name, what would the Soup Kitchen Fairy's name be? Like, what do you think? Well, where would you go with that?
So I'll start by saying discussions have been had already. This has been a topic we've had internally. We we had a couple names we actually were thinking about for the Soup Fairy already. I don't want to share any quite yet because I don't want to say something that's not going to be finalized. A lot of these things, although I am the narrative lead, it's not like expressly done through me. We have like large brainstorming meetings, and whenever we finalize any bits of Neopets lore, we have multiple like Neopets super fans in the room, so we can make sure we're trying to do it justice. I'm by no means an authority on this stuff. I'm just here to try to keep everything moving and make sure we're going in the right direction. I will say we had a lot of fun ideas around soup ingredients name based names. I think that's where a lot of our inspiration was coming from. We had a lot of fun with playing with that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we had a name for her that at least gives a nod to an ingredient commonly found in soup. But I don't want to give anything away official yet.
No, no worries. Spoilers are the bane of good lore and stories. Thank you. Is there anything that you guys would like to share with Neopians before we cut it off?
It's a great question. I really appreciate the moral support also for the record. Yeah, I'd like to say the biggest thing right now is our like on the ground floor, we've all been very busy. We've been trying our best to get things moving. And I understand, like, externally, you might not always see everything that's happening. There's a lot of things like the plot that take a lot of time and energy to put together. But we've been putting together a lot of plans. I'm really excited to see how people react to the plot. And there's even some parts of the plot that might be good testing grounds for potential future features, depending on how things go. So that's a nice thing I do want to mention, too. I know that, like, um, I think I never meet my own expectations, and I know we never fully meet the expectations of fans. They have high expectations, and I do not blame them at all. I think we're really striving to do as well as we can with this episode of the plot, and I want to just say if there's anything that isn't quite there yet, I want to say like we're trying our best behind the scenes. We really are, and any feedback you have, whether it's criticism, we really do appreciate it. That is what helps us make sure we're doing this right and correct these things. And like I said, these things can be like test runs for future features. I'd love to see if we can pull some of the cool stuff that we built for the plot and make long-term things that we can add to the site. So it's not just a one and done sort of thing. It's something that people can continue to enjoy again and again. And we've been trying to do that with things like the games and some of the puzzles, but I think there's a lot more that we can take that we've been building and make sure we can try to do what we can to repurpose it and build upon that to add more value for Neopets players, because I think the biggest thing right now that a lot of players like myself deal with is just not enough to do on the site. When there's things like the plot not running, you can come back and you can do events, but like other than that, and once you hit your goals, there needs to be more things in the plot for people to get excited about. And we're really trying to think about what other fun things we can delve into and how we can bring players all sorts of different types of excitement and fun, whether it's something way lower scope than a plot, or something else. We don't want to just always be talking about merch. There's so many other cool things we really want to bring y'all, but it does take a lot of planning and approvals behind the scenes before we can get it out, unfortunately.
Well, again, like, thank you guys so much for like taking the time to do this. And if you ever have anything else new coming out that you like to talk about and discuss, I'm happy to make some time and chit chat.
I really appreciate that. This was a superb chat, so we can definitely reach out again.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all. And adventurers, please check out neopets.com. I'll drop the links in the relevant description for all of the stuff. And see you next time.